Let's learn something really quick.
If you got the time, absolutely. And you got the discipline, there's no question about it.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great practice to put into your everyday life, you guys.
You generally regret the things you don't do, not the things you did do. Let me say it that way.
Mic drop. This was just awesome. I love meeting my guests in person, and it's a whole nother animal, and the energy is just electric. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free. To live your best life, live label free. And we're back with another incredible guest. So sit back, relax, and stay tuned. My next guest she has traveled 6 out of 7 continents, having grown up in Manhattan in South Florida. She's a xenophile, preferring exposure to various cultures of the world over sand and sun. I never heard that expression before, but I like it. She graduated from University of Miami with a bachelor's in psychology, studied art appreciation in Europe, attended Fashion Institute of Technology, studied Kabbalah and Buddhism, and traveled the perimeters of the United States. She is also the author of Whispers, Sinners, and Saints. Please welcome Nancy Hart. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Wow, thank you so much. What a great intro.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of incredible things that you've got going on there. I'm a little jealous. Traveled all over 6 out of the 7 continents.
Gotta do all you can.
Yeah, are you gonna go to the 7th one? What's the 7th one?
Antarctica. No, thank you. Well, I'm good. Unless I'm looking for the aliens, I'm good.
That or the penguins, right?
Or the penguins, yeah. I live in Colorado, so it gets cold enough.
I think I have you beat. I'm in Illinois, so we get colder than Colorado.
Yes, you do. That's too cold for me. Yes, so there you go. I don't need Antarctica. I'll go to Chicago instead. I'll get there.
Well, good. You come here, I'll keep you warm. Don't worry, we'll have some fun. So I'll keep you occupied. Well, okay. You said you made up a xenophile.
Yes.
Is that true?
No. I didn't make them xenophile. I made up the whole sentence there. Over sand on sand. I'd rather be a xenophile. A xenophile, is when you love people, love cultures. Yeah, and I think that's what keeps me traveling, is to just learn about people. Instead of going to the zoo and seeing animals, I figure the world is like a zoo for people.
Oh, animals. People.
Animals, right?
Well, if I have animals, but a zoo of people, because I would agree with you. In a good way. Sorry, guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have nutrition to take it wrong. No, absolutely. Totally the right way. It's fascinating.
What has been your favorite culture so far?
The one I'm studying, the one I'm ever looking at and learning. Right now I'm into Buddhism because it's a philosophy, and just the cultures. So traveling over there, it's very eye-opening. So wherever I am, that's the one I like.
Interesting.
Now,
So
anything good at home.
Well, probably something behind that, and we'll dig into that in a little bit. What country have you gone to where it's Buddhism? Because there's several, right?
Oh, yeah, Asia, basically, yeah. And it's funny, but Atlanta, Georgia is a monastery where I studied for like 4 years.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that's where I really got to go into the Buddhism stuff. But whenever I travel, I go to different things like churches and temples, and I just do whatever it is that they're doing. I have a dog in the background. I'm sorry. Just one little boy. And so I just mimic what they're doing and enjoy. And it's very eye-opening. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. Aside from all of your travels, you live in Colorado, you said. You have 2 dogs that we've heard. But you are now an author of this book, Whispers, Sinners, and Saints, that we can see behind you. So if you guys are watching this, you see the cover of her book here. And there is quite a backstory to this book, isn't there?
Oh, boy. There sure is.
We're kicking it off. It's go time.
Well, yeah, Whispers, Sinners, and Saints. It's actually the title of Whispers is the clairaudient intangible that has saved my life and has been with me since before I can remember. And that's 5 months old and before that even. Sinners is my mother and people that were her friends because they never came to help me when she would do some things that weren't very motherly. And saints was my grandma. My grandma was my saint. And there was also a lady named Mama Cass. That was the first person that showed me some love. Even though my mother had to pay for it, I still appreciated it because she was very kind to me. So those were the saints in this book.
So let's unpack each one at a time, right? So let's talk about the whispers, and I think so. You're probably a little bit more of like what a clairvoyant, intuitive.
Yeah, I'm a clairvoyant, clairaudient person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see things ahead of time. And then the clairaudient is that I hear it in my right ear.
Let's talk about what that was like for you and what that meant for you to be clairvoyant, like audience at such a young age and throughout your life.
Okay. So being clairaudient, clairvoyant, what was that like? It was basically my mother would yell at me and have another episode and it would be awful and I would be crying. And it was through the crying, always through the crying, that I would keep asking and pushing, why is this happening? Why? And he would, and it was always a he, would come up with wisdom as words for me, some comfort, some consoling, some wisdom that I needed. Because if he did not, I think I would have gone crazy. I think I would have gone mad. I would have, other people, they end up in institutions. They end up killing their person that's, look, the Menendez brothers, right?
Yeah.
That was
We'll unpack that on the sinner's part, but so this male voice came to you, gave you some wisdom. And what did this voice say to you?
well, the very first time it spoke to me was before I was born. So this is even before I was born. And at that point, I remember I just was alone and everybody else was just sparks they were leaving.
Wow.
And I was saying, okay, it's my turn now, because I just would feel the presence and I would feel the glow and I would hear the voice, but I would not see like how I see you. I would just know that there was somebody there because he would speak to me. And I said, I want to get out of here. And he'd say, no, it's not time. And I would keep saying, well, everybody's gone. I got to get out of here. There's nothing to do here. And he kept coming back and he'd say, no, it's not time. And finally he said to me, if you go, your life is going to be very hard. Mm-hmm. And he says, I'm going to give you time to think about that, but a long time. And I don't know time frame up there. You don't know time frame. And then he came back one day, whatever. And I said, oh, good, you're back now, so I can get out of here because this is terrible. There's nothing to do here, nothing. And he says, well, if you go back, I did speak with the others, and they said your life will be very, very hard. And I said, it can't be worse than this. I mean, there's nothing going on up here. Wow. And so, the next time I know is that I'm 5 months old and I have this pinky, see, it's broken and it wasn't always broken, but it's broken. And my mom had me in a bakery and she put me in a basket in the toilet area and nobody went to the toilet. They came in, they got the pastries and they left. So she figured it was safe. There was no money for caretaking and there was nobody else in this country. So she had to do what you had to do. And that's what she did. But she picked me up out of the basket. And I cried for 2 days. She lost her job. And I remember, 2 days that I remember the light, the shadows moving. And that's pretty easy to know that it was there. And then it's there again. But it had moved all the way around the room and it was light and it was dark. And I was in extreme pain and I was thrashing my body and I'm screaming on the top of my lungs. And at one point I snapped out of my body and all I know is I'm looking at this thing that's like a blob. That's what I called it. A blob. I was red and I was sloshing around in my excrement because it was a plastic mattress and I was naked. And I said, "What is that?"
Oh,
And Whisper says to me, "That's you." And the shock of it, I went right into my body. And I said, "Oh, somebody answered me. You answered me, but you've come around a few times already, and you haven't. I just haven't listened. I want my mom to hold me. What is this? Who are you? What is this? I don't want you." He goes,
yeah.
"I'm always here for you." And I go, "Yeah, you really are. But I want my mom." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "I want her to hold me." And he said, "Why?" I said, I don't want to be alone." And he said, "You're not alone. I'm always with you." And I said, it was like, "Oh, so if I connect to myself, then I know that you're with me." And that stuck with me. And even till today, I always, go back
So,
to,
do you still hear? Does this person still visit you,
yeah, yeah,
or I guess being or angel?
yeah, it
Like,
comes to me
yeah.
right here. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And the thing is, I was 11. My grandmother died. I write about it in the second book, which I don't have a title for yet. But the second book I wrote that I had to tell my mom that I waited a long time to tell her something that about my pinky. And I go like this. She goes, "What are you, a stupid idiot child?" Because I went like this. I go, "No, you see this? I have something to tell you." And I told her all these facts. I told her my bed, the crib when this happened, it was against the wall. I faced the door. I saw the door. My godmother came in and she was clapping her hands, and I didn't bother answering her because why should I answer anyway? And then you told her, "Leave the idiot child alone because because uh because she needs to drop dead. I don't care about her." I mean, I had remembered everything, and my mother went, "You remember that?" And I said, "Yeah, I remember that." And I said, "I remember that." And I said, "I have a connection that nobody sees, but I know about." And she goes, "Yeah, I believe you do." And that, I had predicted the clairvoyant side and the clairaudient side a month before that, predicted my grandmother was going to die. And it happened. And it happened. And so after that, she believed me. And then I saw some ghosts in the house, the apartment. And then I had told, and Whisper said, "You got to get out of there, because if not," he wanted me to tell my mother, "one of us is next."
Wow.
Then my mother said, "Okay, you know what? I used to think you're crazy. You're not crazy. We're getting out of here." And then we
Wow.
wound up moving at the end of the school year. Yeah.
Hmm. Wow. That's intense. I think a lot of people are probably scratching their head right now, like, what is she talking about? Because they don't understand that these are gifts. When we're kids, when we're little, we have these gifts, and as we get older, we tend to grow out of them because we get hardened by the world. But you obviously been able to hold on to them, which is a beautiful thing. So let's kind of move into your mother. I know that. Well, you kind of told us a little bit, but there's a lot more to unpack. And why is she the sinner in your book?
Yeah, she's the sinner because she didn't have an easy childhood, but nobody ever hit her. My grandmother was just a very loving person, and she really cared for her a lot.
Yeah.
My mother was a product of World War II. She lived in the ghetto. She was a child of the Holocaust, and my whole family was lost in the Holocaust. And my grandmother had the numbers and everything, but she just was from day number one. My grandmother always said, she was the kind of kid that kicked her and hit her. And like
Wow.
if my grandmother would say the story, I took her to the sandbox to play with sweet little kid that had a pail and a shovel. And my grandma said, "Play with a nice little girl with a pail and the shovel."
Yeah.
And my mother took the pail, slammed it on the girl's head, and then smacked the shovel against the thing. Like, that's the kind of mother I thought.
Oh my goodness.
So she was like a horror, and nobody ever could put her straight. But they didn't have the energy for her. She had like
Sure.
so much energy. And my grandma was like had her, she was illegitimate child. So my grandmother had her back in 1932 in the old country. And so she had to work the factory bookbinding at like 2 a.m. and a full shift.
Wow.
So yeah, by the time she got home, she was exhausted. Grandma was sick. Her grandma was sick, but reading all the time.
Yeah.
And, like they sent her to school, and everybody pulled off the teacher's shoes. It
Yeah.
was just part of like a thing of respect. You pull off the teacher's shoes.
Okay.
And when it came to my mother, she said to the teacher, and we're talking first grade, she says, "What are you, a cripple? Take off your own shoes. What are you, a cripple?" I mean,
Wow.
and everybody was in shock with this. So this, yeah. So my mother was highly abusive, highly neglectful. I can't, she beat me a lot and called me every name. I write them all down in the first book because, people don't want them to imagine anything was light. Oh, the lady looks too good to have anything have ever happened to her.
Yeah.
Right? Or what a bimbo. No, I write
Yeah.
details just to give me street cred or validation.
Yeah.
And so that I can say, hey, listen, it's all about your mind and how strong you are here. You have to take it and interpret it in a way that works for you.
Yeah.
And catch the negative thoughts, no matter what it is. Because she was bad, but like Whispers told me, like I said to him after a really horrific experience, horrible, horrible. I wake up unconscious, right? So, like more times than not, she threw me into the wall. She saked me. She just beat me and cut. It was just horrible. She heard me whimper. She came back and said, "Oh, I guess you want some more." So it was.
It sounds very similar. I just watched that Menendez Brothers special, that documentary, and I was in shock and awe. Like, because I was watching it, I'm like, something happened to these boys. Something happened to them for them just to go and kill their parents. That just doesn't happen out of the clear blue. You know what I mean? And so, like, and then as it unfolded, they started talking about what had happened to them, and it's just, it's very shocking to me that a mother would do that or allow something to be done to their own child.
Yes, that's what I say. That's what I say. And that's what the Whisper said to me when I said, "How am I supposed to learn to be a mother?" And he said to me, "You're learning how not to be. So you're going to do everything the opposite of what she does."
Yeah, for sure.
And so I made note of that very early on. Yeah. But look, honestly, I watched the Menendez movie documentary. There's like 2 of them. They're really good. And if I would have been in their shoes, I would have maybe stolen a watch and sold it and gotten away. Because there's 2 of them too. They have each other. They have each other's backs.
Yeah.
And they were already at an age where they could have been working and they wouldn't need to steal the watch in the first place. And they could be out. So
I think in those type of situations, I'm sure maybe you could speak for yourself, but I know for me, I have a little bit of a traumatic past.
yeah.
When you are stuck in that cycle of that vicious cycle, it's really hard to get out of it. You can't see a way out. And so sometimes the only way out you see is a very desperate way. And I know it took me a very long time to break the abusive cycle that I was accustomed to in relationships because of my father. And then my mother and I haven't had the best relationship either, and we don't really even talk anymore, but because I've healed and I won't allow certain things in my life, but it took me a long time to get here, to like say, okay, well, this is not acceptable. I don't deserve to be treated this way. I don't deserve to be talked to this way. And like, you have to set those boundaries. And sometimes when people are accustomed to things being the same way, it's hard for them to break out of them. It's
I
very,
agree with you. I agree with you. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I mean, my mother had to die for me to say goodbye. And so she was 59, and people, when I've done other podcasts say, well, how come you still talk to her at 59? How come you were still talking to her, not only talking to her, but for 3 hours every day? And I say, well, look, let me tell you this. She was not only my mother, she was my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, my aunt, and my uncle, my grandma, my grandfather. I have nobody else. She's dead. Now I am alone, all alone. So I always felt that it was, since very early on, like around age 10, I felt that I was her mother. And she would listen to me and how to talk to other people. And she would always lose it, but at least she asked for advice, and she was trying more and more at the end. And I just never gave up hope. I just never. Yeah.
Let's highlight the Saints really quick, because we got to start bringing it to a close. The Saints was your grandmother, and what would you like to highlight about your grandmother?
Oh, my grandmother was a saint. Let me tell you, she was a tough cookie. If you think about it, compared to other people, they might not call her a softie. She was not a softie. She would put a broom in my back from one side to the other, just so that I wouldn't have my back crooked. I'd have to sit while I did homework. This was a European thing, though, and she always told me, "I love you." My grandmother told me, "I love you." She bought me a red balloon, and I wore it like somebody carries around the Academy Award trophy. I used to be in school, and I just was so proud. And here I am, 10 years old, as tall as my grandma, with a balloon. Red balloon.
I love it. That's cute.
And she just warmed my heart. She cooked for me. My mother never cooked for me. She just, she told me stories of the old country. She made me feel like I was somebody. She was the first person to say, she'd say, with the brain like that one, you're going to be a lawyer one day, okay?
Oh, I love that. With the accent and everything. What do you want people to get out of your book if they purchase it and read it?
I want them to get to know that everybody has a story, and people that laugh the loudest have mastered life the best.
Yeah, I love that. Where can people find you, connect with you, and purchase your book, Nancy?
Okay, so I'm on youtube.com at Nancy Hart Author, FB, Facebook, and Instagram, Nancy Hart Author. My website, nancyhart.com.
Excellent. You guys, I'm going to put those links in the show notes, the show description. So do not hesitate to go click those. Go show Nancy some support. Follow her on social and go purchase her book. Clearly, it's going to be probably a tearjerker and a page turner. Nancy, this is the part of the show where I like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
Everybody has their own journey, and to catch your negative thoughts, because there's a lesson there. That's a little tap on the shoulder for you to say, wait a second, what is it that I can learn from this and learn from it?
Love that. That's a great piece of advice. Yes, absolutely. Well, Nancy, thank you so much for sharing your story, being bold and courageous enough to let the world know like what you've been through, and that it doesn't have to be as ugly as it may sound, and you can turn things around and live a life of purpose going through all of that. I think it's beautiful. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Deanna. My pleasure.
You're welcome. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free. To live your best life, live label free. It was great to see you. We'll see you next week at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Until next time, you guys, we'll see you on Label Free.